All right, everybody. The time is 11:07 p.m. on Wednesday, May 27th. Target individuals. Signs of a mind control handler. How to figure it out. Now, the reason why was some of you who have subscribed to me recently may have noticed some of the comments I've sent you before of like you got to keep an eye out for like not just the perps that are doing the signaling, but who they're doing the signaling to. And this is why. Signs of a mind control handler and how to figure it out. I know I've been definitely off topic for a while. You definitely have my apologies for that. I've been on other things, and honestly, the main goal of the channel was basically the purpose of it is to basically, you know, find solutions and tie together certain helpful tactics for target individuals to ease the stress of what they're dealing with. That was the main objective of that, and I've strayed off that for quite some time. I mean, yeah, I'm doing pretty good with the Rife belt, but that's not enough. I'm still straying off too much. But I guess with the ingredient listings, that's also another thing to keep in mindful of. But I feel like I was definitely getting somewhat off track, but it's about time I get this channel right back on track. Anyway, signs of a mind control handler, how to figure it out. If you have synthetic telepathy, try your hardest to decipher who the voice sounds similar to. Who is close to you? Does anyone gaslight you or could have in the past? Who seems to be quite nervous when they are around you? Do you get a bad feeling the person is hiding something from you? Is there anybody you know that appears in your life once in a while and then not around all the time? Is there anybody you know that is gone for days or a couple then comes back to you without a valid excuse? Think about anyone around you. Do you think anyone you know is capable of getting the technology to do mind control on you? If yes, do you have any thought of how they could get access to the mind control technology to you to control? And my apologies if you hear that in the background. That's actually the belt that I'm using right now, the Rife frequency belt. That's going through a session right now. I'm using the one of the videos off my playlist that I usually use for this. If yes, do you have any thought of how they could get access to the mind control technology to control you? Do you know someone in authority, online or offline? Do you know someone in authority or have in the past? If yes, did they seem odd or strange around you or have an instant interaction for you? Do you know someone that has a split personality? Do you know someone that can flip on a dime and can be happy one day and then just stressed the next? If you have telepathy, what does the person sound like? How they talk, is it similar to someone you know? The word to use. You experience symptoms of mind control. Make a schedule. Write down time and dates of when you experience symptoms. Write down also what the symptoms is. If you experience synthetic telepathy, does the tone of the voice seem similar to a person you know? The tone of the voice may not be exactly the same, although handlers tend to tinge it a little to not sound exactly like their true identity. Do you detect a person? What is their work schedule like? If it is during, most likely not the person, unless they are using the technology on their break or during very little. When they communicate with you, when they are working, it is small chunks of time. Bonus points. These are from my experiences pinpointing my handler. These questions I hope should help you figure out who the person could possibly be. It could be a male or female, doesn't matter your gender. Some signs may not be all accurate, although everybody is not the same overall. Some of the techniques are used in the majority aspect, plus sometimes the handler will not have even have tried to communicate with you in person or speak things about their identity. If this is the situation, you may never know who your handler is. If you cannot pinpoint the question in this article, the handler could be hiding their true self from you. Keep in mind that not everybody has a handler. Some target individuals of mind control are on a non-stop computer program. Certain individuals only get a handler. Okay, wait. So now it's really is can be confused because the information I've been reading says that it's just been, you know, freaking perps getting handlers, but now it's the way I see it, and because you see, this is where it gets confusing. Perps are supposed to be the ones that have the handlers. I didn't think it would be a target individual that has the handler, because now that's getting confusing. There's supposed to be a person who's the overseer The overseer is the one who manages everything, as well as what the attacks is happening and stuff like that. That's the person that I usually see as the person mainly responsible for my own targeting. And then the handlers are the ones doing the street theater, who actually helps do the chain of command with the lower end individuals who are doing the gang stalking to do the messaging and stuff like that, who basically both communicates back with the overseer, who is doing the electronic harassment. Now every TI story is the same. A must read. Questions about mind control handlers answered 1. Joshua Barr, October 22nd, 2017 at 3:51 p.m. Number 1, if you have synthetic, simply try to decipher who the voice. You should not. Okay, that was just. Let me just scroll down here. Okay, mind controlling isn't just done by the. Isn't just done by the CIA. CIA can hire what is called going to be handlers or perps that they know will be most likely quiet about having the technology. I am assuming if they hire people out of any spy agency to do mind control, the people that they would be hiring are already being mind controlled. The going to be perp or handler is going to be mind controlled to not say anything. Be quiet about having the technology to do the mind control. Okay, this thing's getting kind of loud, so let me just turn this down. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. But you see, this is what I was wondering about. Like, it would seem like they would do that. So basically, the people using the technology are already being controlled themselves. So they're basically robots, man, because they can't afford something like that to get out. Why do you think they were so desperate to get evidence from me when I caught them in the act of using the technology? It's crazy. People most likely are, something I did still wanted to upload that video feed for you all, but I don't have the right equipment to basically get that off of there for you all. I don't have the right equipment right now for that, and it's sad because like when you see that, you're gonna be able to see and hear everything that happened. This is why having a screen recorder is extremely important, because it can record when it seems like you're not recording, That also actually provides us both, for video capturing and audio capturing. So it's a win-win scenario with that. So not saying anything, be quiet about having the technology to do the mind control. The agency that hires people most likely are going to make the perp or handler attached to the victims, so that this is another reason they would not tell anybody. The handler wants the victim all to themselves, unless their agency hires not one perp or handler, but a second one or even more. The technology, I am assuming, can be found on websites, the known deep web. The technology can be made if you know tools and how to make one. There are various cases where mind control is just not done by individuals in the agency. Also, keep in mind control is just not done by the American Spy Agency. There are other countries in the world. That have their own spy agencies. Just because you were born in a country doesn't mean that the country you are in, someone in the country isn't only doing the mind control. Well, hold on. Spy agency. Just because you were born in a country doesn't mean that the country you are in, someone in the country is only doing the mind control. They could be from another country. Okay, let me go back to that other comment. Okay, you should not care about who the voice is. You can be decisive by them if you allow them to direct your thoughts down that path. If they can get you to be suspicious of the people living with you, they are going to be able to isolate you. People who really are a part of this, such as your... Oh, man, it looks like they're trying to manipulate a lot of stuff right now. Man, they just will not piss off. Seriously. People who really are a part of this, such as your doctor who knows stuff about your life, can be determined using real life encounters who is close to you. The person during the telepathy is not someone close to you, although people in your general vicinity may be helping. It is being done for the CIA. Your family and friends are not the ones sending you the telepathy. If you become convinced they are, you will have a difficult time in it maintaining normal relationships with them. Number 3, does anyone gaslight you or has in the past? People around you can be mind controlled to act awkwardly around you. You should not allow that to generate any emotional responses. Sometimes you run into people who allow themselves to be mind controlled more than others. These people will deliberately follow you around and act in a way which generates emotions or stress. Be aware of what is going on. Number 4, who seems to be nervous around you? People around you can be mind controlled to act nervous around you. As mentioned before, look out for people who are allowing themselves to act strange around you. Number 5, who is basically not around you all the time. The people who are controlling your mind are not someone you are going to know. It isn't your friends or family. Don't cause issues with your family and friends by asking them questions about their schedules. Number 6, does anybody you know gone for days and appears without a valid excuse? You should not care about the schedules of your friends and family. You can be deceived if you allow them to direct thoughts in that direction. Don't cause issues with your family and friends by asking them questions. Here's the thing, man. I've said this before. The people doing this are not going to show their face, you know? And if I see someone like playing around, trying to hide and shit and run off, I know it's bullshit because I know they're not the people doing this. They're a part of the problem for sure, but they're not the ones using the weapons. I'm not stupid enough to fall for that dumb shit. They've tried that trick several times. I'm not falling for that, man. I know the assholes who are using these weapons are not going to allow their face to be seen. Now then, that doesn't mean that I didn't catch people in a car. And these guys were stupid, man. These guys were just fucking dumb, dude. Like they were like really dumb. Really dumb. Who has a car turned? If you're gonna stalk somebody, why the hell would you not only have the car turned on? Why in the hell would you have everything around the car covered up? You would have to have something in your possession. And this is why I think they were talking about how like they'll have somebody mind controlled and be using these weapons. I think that's what that was. But it wasn't the actual people, mainly doing the supplying. Those were just some people at the bottom of the barrel using them. It's sickening that these people do this stuff, knowing what they're doing. Now, I don't know who this sick, twisted fuck is, but I'm not interested in you, okay? I don't give a fuck who you are. My answer to you is no. Period. And I believe I speak for all other TIs out there when I say the exact same thing to theirs as well. They would also tell you the exact same thing. The answer is no, okay? No. Period. A person who uses stuff like this is just is a damn sociopath. It's a person who is sick and twisted and has a very, very ill-mannered addiction. That's what it is. It's basically the next version of a peeping Tom, but even worse, it's where they're peeping into your thoughts now. It's not enough to just peep at you through the fucking window. They gotta peep at you through your thoughts. It's like the next version of a fucking peeping Tom. It's crazy. Now, I'm gonna go back because I want people to. I have to unplug that. But I want people to see this. Now, Bloomberg under fire after Black Journal resurfaced audio from former New York defendings. No, there it is. Target individual gang stalking YouTube. What the media isn't telling you about the Trump impeachment inquiry. Duration 12 minutes and 58 seconds. Larry Elder, the Epic Times. Recommended for you. Now, I'm seeing Epic Times down there. What is this about target individuals? Beware of Chief Handler. And when I go to it, I can't play the video. Now, you may see my little icon there. This is not my channel. That's definitely not my channel. But some videos on my channel were removed. You all already know about that because I did go into a discussion about that. It's crazy, man. Let's see what else I can find. I wanted to see like somewhere, maybe somewhere on TrueTube, there may have been some information that was missed. Something like that, but I couldn't find anything, you know? Tragedy of how targeted individuals PIs are chosen. Please visit my new website. It is HTTP James. Okay, this box. The tragedy of how targeted individuals TIs are chosen and the purpose for doing so. The reason I am in predicament of being a targeted individual TI may be that someone wanted me to be neutralized. However, I am not able to put my finger on any one incident and probably was targeted way before I actually began receiving torture. The fact remains that it may be that I am being neutralized for possibly no reason other than human experimentation. Or in other words, they needed guinea pigs and I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I tried to report my experiences by reporting in my blog. The following today my handler is trying to make me get in line. I must have done something to piss him off, but I can't know what that is, and I won't fall into the nowhere psyops of trying to guess what it is so I can correct my behavior. Actually, I am not afraid of these sociopaths, and I don't care what the handler thinks or wants. The handler is a military contractor sociopath hired to... Okay, just, sheesh. Okay. I try to report my experiences by reporting my blog and the following today. My handler is trying to make me get in. Okay, yeah, I already read that. The handler is military contractor sociopath hired to keep me neutralized and effective by using psychological terror and directed energy weapons. So we have to go through the dance until the handler is either satisfied or gives up trying to modify my behavior. You see what I'm talking about, though? Modify a person's behavior. If a person acts strangely, understand we have people amongst us using stuff like this to do this. This is what the real problem is. We have a bunch of criminals running about, private contractors, people who are being covered up, not having their true intentions and what they're doing shown to the public. Because if people knew about this, trust me, these assholes will be straight in jail, locked behind the bars, and the keys thrown away. They wouldn't not have seen the light of day again. They wouldn't be. These people are still out and about, man. They're still doing this. And that's the big problem. When you actually try to go as far as exposing them, you're going to have to deal with people who are, blending in with the public, who are actually secretly working for these assholes. But at the same time, you got to understand, it's a very difficult situation because people are most likely either being manipulated or messed with in some kind of way. If you hear that beeping sound, please forgive me for that. That's just the, I'm going to tell you what video this is. This is the Parasite Cleanse with 35 right frequencies, full theater meditation. I'm like 7 minutes. I'm about to be 8 minutes into the video. You can just look that up on the playlist. It'll be there. You'll see it. It's basically in pink writing, and it's got a beige. It's like pink writing on the beige page, and it's got like these brownish looking roots all on both sides of it. Basically, you can't miss it. You can check that out if you want. It's definitely the most powerfulest one I've found. I've already since had this thing downloaded just to be on the safe side. But anyway, let's get into this. What I just told you is a simple multiple. Wait, hold on. I try to report my experiences by reporting in my blog. The following today, my handler is trying to make me get in. No, I've already read that. Neutralized and affected by using psychological terror and directed energy weapons. So we have to go through the dance until the handler is either satisfied or goes up trying to. Yeah, that's true. What I just told you is multiplied thousands of times because there are thousands of documented target individuals, each having at least three handlers to neutralize them, taking shifts over a 24-hour period. Now, there has been one documented mass murder by military contractor Aaron Alexis. The handler is very attentive and watches me closely, observing everything I do, and I mean everything. He gets whatever feedback he can from my voice or computer activity and the visual image of a heat colorized image of me. Even though he is a sociopath, he has complete control over an individual target, and he will decide how the weapons will be used on the target. A handler has access to state-of-the-art lethal classified directed energy weapons which can present in two forms. The one is microwave energy beam, which is more diffuse, and second form is scalar wave beam, which feels like it is about to the diameter of a pencil, but it can also be diffuse. Whole or partial body, I believe two beams emanate from one weapon. One is a radar beam to track and stay locked onto the target's neural image, and the other is a destructive beam used to coerce, damage, or destroy, or otherwise incapacitate, neutralize the target. I believe the weapons used is malfunctional radio frequencies directed energy system. U.S. No fucking way. There's the patent code for it. Oh, are you serious? Did I really just find this? So if people didn't believe directed energy weapons, didn't exist, I mean, there's the patent code. But hold on, when was the date where this was made? Are you done? Oh, no way. No way. This was documented Wednesday, October 16th, 2013. This was way before they started showing directed energy weapons out there on the TV screens and shit. Way before then. You still think TIs are schizophrenic now? I mean, there's the patent code. I'm gonna probably see if I can look that up. Don't worry, I'm gonna leave facts at that. Okay. What could possibly go wrong when sociopaths are expected to use high-powered directed energy weapons on an individual target? This is especially worrisome since the target individual are mostly innocent victims and not guilty of any crime. Stacking insults on top of injury, the sociopaths are. They have a stunning lack of empathy. They see their job as a wet dream come true every day. They do not feel remorse for injuring the TI. They show a proper sensitivity to have complete control over people. There has been research into what makes these people tick. They could be sexually abstracted to this type of control and torture, and there can be any of a host of pathological reasons and manifestations for their predatory nature. But to understand that their very being is pathological by nature is to take the first step to elevating the problem. They often have anger management issues and are prone to violent outbursts. That's a trait of a narcissist. Many of them are predators who use people to fulfill their fantasies, gain money, power, etc., and then discard them when they are through. Advances in technology has taken human experimentation out of the laboratory into the living room. I could go on, but you can see that the problem is with using jackals to guard the chickens than DE weapons testing bio effects on innocent consensual human test subjects at the discretion of a sociopath, which is illegal, immoral, murder by slow kill, and there is a disaster in the making. The sociopath people feel it is their job to perpetrate the illegal torture of innocent Americans. Our lawmakers need to figure that since the U.S. does not torture, then fail to rein in this horrendous problem would make lawmakers guilty by failure to act. President Obama, Commissioner on Bioethics, took testimony from many targeted individuals victims of this crime. TI testimony begins 18:00 minutes. They wanted to be in the know, so we put them in the know. The people are being hurt, people are being tortured, and people are being killed. This is exactly the type of thing that bioethics committees should make it their business to investigate. As for the mechanics of one such program actually do the bioeffects testing on human subjects was put in place back in April of this year when the Air Force awarded a $49 million to study exactly that. However, they will not be able to find human test subjects who can fulfill the terms of their contract. Conclusions. Number one, the U.S. government has done illegal research before using human test subjects like an MK Ultra, etc. All and President Clinton personally apologizes to victims in the 1990s. Number two, the government has the capability to do it again. The Air Force Bioeffects contract award to conduct DE bioeffects testing in human test subjects. Directed Energy Bioeffects Research, DEBR, I think that's parentheses, I could be wrong, slash BAA slash HPW slash RHDR slash 2013 slash 20002 archived. Federal Business Opportunities. Okay, basic. Okay, description. Okay, victims have testified before the biometrics committee that it is indeed going on every day. Now let's check out what this link is going to. Please visit. Okay, no, that's the other. The page we're looking for was not found. Please look into the. Okay, the manually selected. Okay, go back. I was hoping to really figure out what that was. That was evidence for investigation. Why would that be missing? Like, really? Oh, let me go back to that. The page you were looking for was not found. Please look into the blog index and select it manual. Blog index. Let's go to home. Let's see if we can find that. Oh, something about COVID-19. COVID-19 medical decree by morons for domicile by proxy. But the video has been removed for, of course, it's been freaking removed. Why wouldn't they do that? Okay, let's go back.
Blocked effective treatments. This is something that actually is quite dire. It's something that is really bothersome to me. When we look at what's happened in this country, we have talked over and over again about hydroxychloroquine, the fact that it works. Do you know that there are over 200 studies and trials around the world showing that hydroxychloroquine works? Remember, Vladimir Zelenko has now treated 699 patients with coronavirus with a 100% success rate. We have Didier Raoult just treated over 1,000 patients with chloroquine with a 99% success rate all around the world. And as we showed you, they did studies on SARS coronavirus all the way back in 2005, which we pointed out at the National Institute of Health. So Tony Fauci knows that hydroxychloroquine works even against SARS, a far more deadly version of coronavirus, which also, by the way, they recognized all the way back then was more of a blood issue, oxygen blood issue, than it was a respiratory illness. Yet if you watch mainstream media, or if you saw the great interviews by Cheryl Atkinson meeting with doctors, the #1 treatment in the world is hydroxychloroquine, yet everyone that watches liberal and mainstream media is terrified they're going to have a heart attack from hydroxychloroquine. It's becoming such an issue that they can't even get people to be a part of the trials for hydroxychloroquine. This is mind-blowing to me. Where was the fear of heart attacks when everyone was using it for malaria over the last 60 freaking years around the world? Where was the concern about heart attacks for those who had rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, both conditions that they have approved hydroxychloroquine? They didn't seem to care if you had lupus or rheumatoid arthritis that there was a heart murmur or a heart problem. Only when Donald Trump said, I think we have a really good product here. Trump says now he's taking hydroxychloroquine, the drug he touted as coronavirus treatment, despite FDA warnings. I mean, you can't knock that, right? And now they're attacking him. We have people saying this is absolutely reckless that Donald Trump would say that he's taking hydroxychloroquine. Do I live in a fantasy world? Look, I've told you, I'm politically marooned. I was once a progressive liberal.
Okay, it's gonna be on this website. I'll have this linked in the description. This whole thing, I think this is they saying like this is like a whole. That's insane. It's like about an hour and 42 minutes. I don't know. Let me go back and see what else I can find. Are you willing to die to end this injustice to all of you? Okay, let's check this out. Oh, wait. Yeah, I know what that is. That's a, Applied Truth for Use channel. Let me go back. Let's check this out.
Hey Internet friends, in previous videos we've covered who Bill Gates was before Microsoft, who Bill Gates was after Microsoft, and what it means to give eugenics a hot rebrand as population control. But today we're going to go in a different direction because Bill Gates is just one guy. Today we're going to look at the money and power behind Bill and discuss some companies and individuals that might not be household names, but they manage the names you know in your household. So let's take a closer look at one faction of what the children these days are calling the deep state. I wanna stay like a sailor, but I can't do that. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. The history of the most popular coffee chain in the world began in 1971 in Seattle, Washington, which originally started off as a store that exclusively sold coffee beans. A decade later, Howard Schultz was hired as the marketing and sales director, and he quickly turned the coffee bean shop into a cafe, with his strategy being aggressive expansion as the years went on. But in the 1980s, Starbucks had gotten into financial trouble because...
I'm sorry. If you turn the Starbucks symbol upside down, there were two things about this. It was either a siren, a demonic siren, or the Baphomet symbol. It was one or the other. But basically, if you would have turned the that thing around, that's what you would see.
Because the original founders had acquired a company called Peet's Coffee. The owner of Starbucks approached Schultz, relaying his intention to keep Peet's.
Wait, I'm sorry. Now I remember what it was. It was a siren. It was the twin-tailed siren. The twin-tailed siren. And it's definitely demonic symbolism.
Schultz was then offered ownership of Starbucks for $3.8 million if he could come up with the funds from private investors within 60 days. Schultz claimed that he had no money, and by the end of the month, he'd barely raised half. Only to have the same Starbucks owner approach him saying that he'd received an unsolicited offer on the table for $4 million from a Titan investor. And if Schultz couldn't raise the money by the end of the month, he'd have to accept the offer. In Schultz's retelling of this story, he relayed these events to his attorney friend, and his attorney friend responded by telling Schultz to come into the office and speak with the senior partner at the firm, who just so happened to be William Gates Sr., the father of Microsoft's Bill Gates. You know, Gates Sr., the attorney who sat on the board of Planned Parenthood before the days of Roe versus Wade. Gates Sr., who married Mary Maxwell, the banker's daughter and the granddaughter of the president of Seattle's Federal Reserve Bank. Yeah, Gates Sr. is standing proud at 6 feet 7 inches tall. We're all familiar by this point. So Gates Sr. caught wind of this transaction and advised Schultz to take a walk with him. And they walked down to the unnamed rival buyer's office, where Gates Sr. gave the investor a verbal lashing, saying, "You should be ashamed of yourself. Stand down. This Schultz kid is gonna realize his dream." And then Gates turned to Schultz and instructed him to buy Starbucks. And not to worry, he and Bill Gates Jr. were gonna help him. What a beautiful story, right? It's got everything you could possibly want. Piping hot coffee, the rise of the underdog, and of course, a wise older gentleman looking out for the dreams of a young man. Yeah, sure, it's the same fella who championed the early extermination of many potential dreams through Planned Parenthood. But we won't dwell on that because Gates Sr. made this one American dream come to fruition. Such inspiration. Truly achievable to anyone willing to put in the hard work. And of course, willing to accept a sweetheart deal and work around the quiet shadow ownership of a company. If there is anything Starbucks has been successful at, it's cornering a demographic by selling the cafe experience with the Starbucks cup as a status symbol, with the actual Starbucks logo being what most people think is a twin-tailed mermaid that Starbucks refers to as a siren. But it's actually a hybrid creature, her upper half being a human female and lower half being two fishtails, or two serpent tails. The coffee in that cup comes at an objectively high price, and one might assume that high prices equate to high quality or at least real ingredients. But when you break down the composition of Starbucks drinks and baked offerings, what you're left with is GMOs, pesticides, high fructose corn syrup, and traces of growth hormones throughout, all of which are linked to chronic disease and fertility issues. Even the milk is GMO, from cows that are fed a diet of GMO corn. And that corn is sprayed with pesticides like Monsanto's Roundup. If you've ever sprayed Roundup in your yard, you know from experience that it kills everything it comes into contact with. So what does it mean to ingest it on the daily? So Starbucks' priority should be to get away from the GMO Monsanto ingredients, right? Well, let's follow the money and demonstrate why they can't. The breakdown of Starbucks ingredients might just be an accent point on the story, but it's actually a really big deal, since we can draw a distinct line between the Schultz-Gates Starbucks sweetheart deal and the company that controls a majority of the world's food supply. Monsanto originally began as a chemical company, eventually evolving into a pharmaceutical company, then partnered with the military to give us Agent Orange, the insecticide.
Everybody, if you're not familiar with this, Barack Obama is affiliated with the Monsantos, and I mean that there's a lot of corruption in between there.
DDT, PCBs, and artificial growth hormones, which have done nothing but leave a trail of destruction in their wake. Monsanto has had to pay out millions upon millions of dollars to settle lawsuits because of the harmful effects of their chemicals. So they eventually shifted their focus to agriculture, and guess what? Now they control our food supply, and they were able to stay true to their roots by introducing chemicals and genetic modification to crops. If we follow the trail of money from the origin of Starbucks, the breakdown of Starbucks ingredients leading us to Monsanto, we arrive at 2009, when the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation purchased 500,000 Monsanto shares. Or at least, that's what was published and documented in that fiscal year. In other words, that's an investment we know about. Bill simultaneously bought a huge amount of shares in Cargill, a faceless agri-giant that rules over the world's food commodities. And by doing this, he effectively has a huge financial stake in the world's food supply, and that supply is controlled by companies with less than pristine reputations. And that's putting it lightly. Later, Bill Gates invested millions and millions of dollars in plant-based meat alternative companies like Beyond Meat and the Impossible Burger, sold across upscale restaurants, supermarkets, and even fast food places like Burger King, Carl's Jr., and now Starbucks. The CEO of Impossible Foods is Patrick Brown, a Stanford biochemistry professor specializing in DNA research, whose father worked for the Central Intelligence Agency.
CIA.
While marketing professionals will engineer campaigns to paint these plant-based meats as healthy alternatives, it's proven and documented that these burgers use GMO soy and vegetable sprays with Monsanto Roundup. Recently, Monsanto was acquired by Bayer for $66 billion. Bayer is a German pharmaceutical company that was part of the IG Farben conglomerate back in the Third Reich. and was convicted by the American military of taking advantage of the absence of legal and ethical constraints on medical experimentation to test its drugs on unwilling human subjects during World War II. You'd think that Bayer would have learned their lesson and maybe tried to behave, a little more ethically over the decades, but no. They have just as many scandals and lawsuits as Monsanto, like recently, when Bayer Laboratories realized their blood products were contaminated with HIV and decided that their financial investment in these products was too high to toss out all their vials of blood in a fiery dumpster. So they sold their HIV-tainted products to South America and Asia without the courtesy of a warning. Yes, this is the company that controls our pharmaceuticals and food supply. Aren't we all thrilled? No wonder Bill Gates is making it rain on these companies. They're literally the MVPs of his and his family's passion: population control.
I wanna stay like a satellite, but I can't do that. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that.
Back in the 80s, Bill Gates Sr., an attorney who sat on the board of Planned Parenthood before anyone even knew what Planned Parenthood was, and his son, the Microsoft co-founder and great-grandson of the Federal Reserve, played a key role in Howard Schultz's Starbucks empire. In the early 2000s, after a stint of bad publicity within the media for his legal trouble, Bill Gates established the Gates Foundation for his philanthropic endeavors, and has since killed a number of children and adults in India and Africa, leaving many paralyzed with his experimental pharmaceutical trials and vaccinations. During this time, not only has Bill Gates stated an explicit interest in population control, but he's also invested in pharmaceutical and agricultural giants like Monsanto, who have a notorious reputation for the outright disregard of human life. Not only that, but meaningful amounts of Monsanto chemicals can be found in Bill Gates' investments like Starbucks drinks and baked goods, Beyond Meat products, and Impossible Foods burgers. These chemicals have been proven to cause cancer and infertility. Sounds like some master plan laid out by one of the world's greatest boogeymen. But Bill Gates is just one guy. Who is really the driving force behind him? Who is the real financial powerhouse behind all of these companies? Who is the man behind the curtain? Well, I won't keep you waiting. If you follow the money, you arrive at one place. Bain & Company. Bain & Company was founded in 1973 by former bigwigs at the Boston Consulting Group. And those bigwigs and their families now own sports teams like the Boston Celtics, New England Patriots, and the Boston Red Sox. Multi-billionaires who sit on the board of the Federal Reserve. Bain & Company is one of the big three elite management consulting firms who has been notoriously secretive about itself and its work for clients, earning it the title of the KGB of consulting over the years. You might have heard of Bain & Company during Mitt Romney's run for presidency. The two most famous people out of Bain are Dick Cheney and Mitt Romney. Of course, Dick Cheney was vice president under the Bush administration, and Mitt Romney almost became president. Mitt Romney himself started off at Boston Consulting Group, where he worked alongside none other than Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Eventually, Mitt Romney went on to work for Bain, where he quickly rose up the ranks, becoming one of the company's vice presidents by the late 70s, heading Bain's venture capital arm called Bain Capital. You might not ever guess this, but the wholesome Mormon Mitt Romney was there through it all, quite literally shaping the culture and realities of the United States and countries around the world through Bain Company. While Bain functions as a private equity firm, I think we can quite confidently say that Bain Company is a U.S. intelligence front and military-industrial company, since some of the most famous people out of Bain are high-level government officials. And Bain's most famous clients were, and are, Halliburton, Raytheon, Monsanto, Microsoft, Starbucks, and even the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bain manages a great portion of the Fortune 500 companies. That's why their stocks do so well. And while Bain says they're a consulting firm, their pattern is one of a buyout firm that comes in, takes over, and quietly leaves the shell intact while they place their own people in positions of power within a company. You might be surprised to hear that Bain manages Ryan Seacrest, the guy who is responsible for the reality TV show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And we can effectively say that the wholesome Mormon Mitt Romney was the guy who put the transsexual agenda on television through the Bruce Caitlyn Jenner saga. So when Kanye West gets mouthy and is hauled off on a stretcher and put in timeout for a few days, only to return looking like a Marshall Mathers wannabe clone, that's all Bain Company. When you see Bill Gates doing an Ask Me Anything question and answer session on Reddit or posted up on the 6 o'clock news, labeled as a pandemic expert and talking about mandatory vaccinations, keeping everyone inside for the foreseeable future and grinning with glee, that's Bain Company. When you're nibbling on your plant-based name-brand fast food burger and get a mouthful of delicious Monsanto Roundup, that's Bain Company. When you take a swig of your mocha frappa latte only to get inundated with a myriad of social agendas flying out of Starbucks headquarters, you guessed it, that's Bain Company. And if you're already a liberal anyway and you enjoy such agendas and a piping hot cup of coffee from Starbucks, remember your worldview is being socially engineered by the work of Republican candidate for president, wholesome Mormon governor and sitting senator Mitt Romney, and a bunch of crusty old fellas who've been with Bush Sr. since the days of Skull and Bones. So we followed the money, but where did we arrive? Well, in this video, we arrived at one tiny centralized little group, all owned and operated either by Skull and Bones CIA Financial Investment and Management Arm, otherwise known as Bain, or it's owned and operated by Mossad, Carlyle, or BlackRock. This group has unlimited money and power to take over companies and industries they deem crucial. And these folks have unlimited money because they're literally sitting on the board of the Federal Reserve. Which brings us to Bill Gates' family legacy, eugenics. Now rebranded as population control with Planned Parenthood on his father's side and the Federal Reserve Bank on the other. Everything Bill Gates has ever touched, from Microsoft to Starbucks to Bayer, Monsanto, vaccine makers, and plant-based burgers, it was all managed by Bain & Company. They're the ones who put Microsoft computers at every desk in every office, in every government building, in the computer lab of every school. And these computers and programs have the backdoor access for spying. This is your deep state, or at least a faction of it. What do you think, internet friends? You know, I always look forward to your comments. As always, you can find the full source list to this video pinned as the top comment under the YouTube video. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, and supporting my channel on Patreon.
Yeah, definitely subscribe because she did a wonderful damn job. Reality Graceful is what I'm guessing in the name of the channel. Definitely, I gotta clap for that. I gotta clap for that, really do. But don't think that it ends with that company. It goes far deep than that. Far deep. There are people and organizations out there that are not known to the public. Remember, there are these perps, these people using these weapons, these private contractors. How much you want to bet that there are private contract companies out there? So then, the individuals who are behind Bill Gates' bullshit, Bain Company. Same thing are behind all of this shit. Understand, as well as they're pushing Bill Gates, you better freaking well believe that there is something pushing Bain Company. You better believe there is. Let's see what else we can find. I don't know how much time I got left on this video feed, though. So that was who controls the Gates Company. What's the next?
All of the proceeds are going to Jeanette Finicum, going to their family to help with the lawsuit for the murder of Lavoy Finicum. So it's going to a good cause. It's not even a non-profit organization.
Hang on. I don't want to get off a track here. Oh. Yeah, I remember that guy, but they fired him. Okay, let's see what this is.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just be the first to assure you that everything is fine. That you can go to Twitter and you can find a litany of voices all discussing the safety and security of our food system. And although you might look for any dissenting voices, you won't find them because it is no longer allowed to talk about food running out on Twitter. As of today, they have amended their use policy to get rid of this and other pesky conspiracy theories under the guise that they may be inciting harmful activity or violence from people. Specifically, talking about food shortages could lead to widespread panic or social unrest or large-scale disorder. In other words, their argument is that this is not protected speech because it's the equivalent of yelling fire in a crowded Twitter. But the problem, of course, is that there are tons of other people, including experts and the United Nations and JBS and Smithfield and Tyson, each of whom have shut down the largest meat packers in the United States right now, that are warning about the impending food shortages that will necessarily result when you shut down agriculture. That's what happens. That's what they create there. Without the meat coming out of those factories, it's not going to be on the stores. And as I warned in my last video, when we heard about Tyson moving workers willy-nilly from infected closed plants to the ones that were still open, like Waterloo, and I said, give it a couple days, Waterloo will be shut down too now. Yes, yesterday they closed down Waterloo. That is their largest pork processor in the United States. And that brings the total capacity that's shut down to 15% of the total U.S. pork production. This has significant ramifications beyond our company. It means the loss of a vital...
I'm sorry, before I continue with this, I just want people to understand. When I said that they're going to do shit that basically cause a distraction, I was not joking. As that is happening, you know, when it came to that guy being killed publicly, that was intentionally instructed, okay? It was intentionally instructed when they did that. They did it as a stunt, as fucked up as it is, but they did it as a stunt to convert people's attention from what they're doing. They don't want people to pay attention to the food shortages. They don't want people to pay attention to the fact that 5G is still being installed. They don't want people to pay attention for the fact that they're basically the World Health Organization is given the okay for these other companies to be just saying you don't even have to say what you're putting in the food anymore. They don't want you to know all of this. They don't want you to know any of that. They want you to just be fixated onto some things that's going on. Look at how many people are eating that shit up. Man, I feel bad for that guy for what they did to him, but you need to understand a lot more people are going to be way more at risk if people don't start to realize the truth and the deceptiveness of this psyop that they got going on.
Vital outlet for farmers and ranchers and contributes to the disruption of the nation's pork supply, to say the least. And that's just the latest shutdown in these continuing and cascading, the dominoes falling one after another, series of plant closures affecting the meat processing capacity. Indiana shutting down a meat plant by Tyson, and Tyson also shutting down their Washington beef facility. JBS shutting down another factory in Canada. It's just one after another. Every day it looks like this. Follow me on Twitter at Ice Age Farmer, and you'll just see one after another. I get posted. We're also now seeing warnings that the USDA inspectors themselves have been infected with this coronavirus and might be spreading it as they go from plant to do the inspections. So it's just a question of who's watching the watchers at this point. Just a disaster on all fronts. And of course, many more plants are still at risk or have already been slowed down, their capacity greatly diminished. We read here from USA Today, operators may have to choose between workers' health or meat in the stores. And I just want to point out, there was another plant that has already been now shut down for 2 weeks that was scheduled to come back online, but the union is saying, hell no, we're not going in there. We're not going to come to work in those conditions again. You must be out of your mind. So although most of these plants have been closed indefinitely, even those that put a come back to work date on it aren't finding themselves able to start back up. So production is slowed down across the board. We are eating through our reserves. The USDA's report yesterday on cold storage revealed that we are taking a larger month-to-month drawdown in frozen pork stocks and in other proteins as well. And that was before these plants were even shut down. That's before we've even started feeling the real heat that results from these plants shut down. And like I said, experts across the industry are warning we're heading straight into this meat shortage. Prices are getting weird from the LA Times today. This really puts it all out there. This is what I've been saying for weeks, but now this is straight from the LA Times. Currently, 15% of hog slaughtering capacity is offline. There are additional slowdowns in beef, poultry, and pork. We went through each of the proteins in my last video and talked about the mass kills that are already going on. Euthanasia, it's horrific out there. We are in a sea of death, and you may not hear it or see it, but you can feel it if you know what's going on. This is a situation, yes, where pigs get euthanized and buried as supplies back up. Meanwhile, retail costs are going to rise as grocery stores will mandate rationing on pork chops. This is each of the things that we said in our 2-week outlook just last week. The National Guard was activated to help protect the supplies. There's the government getting involved to make sure continuity of food supply. Here, according to Dennis Smith, senior account executive at Archer, quote, meat shortages will be occurring 2 weeks from now in the retail outlets. This is exactly what we said. There is simply no spot pork available. The big box stores will probably get theirs, but nobody else has any chance. In March, frozen pork inventories, like we just looked, dropped 4% from February. That's the biggest drops in March since 2014. So we're drawing down what we do have frozen. And as he says here, when you talk about cold storage, it's never really that much. It's roughly about a week's worth of production in the freezer. So that's our buffer. Folks, we've shut down the processing. We've got a week of it in the freezer, and that's why 2 weeks from now, it will no longer be in the stores. It will be some cuts that aren't there at all, and on the rest of it, you'll be severely limited to what you can buy. This is why the Secretary of Agriculture today went to Trump and to VP Pence and said, look, we urgently need to help out farmers and ranchers, and we need to figure out how to get rid of all these animals that they're killing off. We need standards for humane euthanasia and disposal of animals. That should make it very clear that this is already an active problem, that there are ranchers across the nation right now who, rather than selling at a loss, because slaughterhouses will charge you if you go over their... we heard from some other interviews why this is going on, but never mind, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. We're not allowed to talk about food shortages, even though we just heard the Secretary of Agriculture telling us that it's coming, and every other producer out there saying, I'm having to kill my hogs. There's nothing wrong, and I'm not allowed to tell you that the food might run out. Isn't it weird? As we burn through our freezer capacity, that suddenly social networks change their policy and we're not allowed to talk about this anymore? I guess we can still talk about the fact that there's a CO2 shortage, which affects our refrigeration, and as The Guardian pointed out, even affects our ability to keep water running in the municipal water systems. So residents of Washington were warned, you might go to the tap and not get any water. Maybe we'll have to start giving you water rationing as well, because we're not getting our CO2. They've already fallen 33% of normal, and we use that carbon dioxide to get a certain pH in your municipal water. So without it, we can't bring you water, and that means you're only going to be allowed, 20 gallons a day. Make something up. This is what's coming. And it's going to come. I can promise you this now. It's written on the wall because ADM today just announced they're going to shut down their ethanol production as well, which even further exacerbates the CO2 shortage. So all of these things are cascading. They're all mounting. Do we even need to bring up the fact that the NERC, the Nuclear Energy Regulatory Commission, has started within these last few weeks putting out feelers and saying, hey, are electrical companies going to be able to keep the lights on here? In fact, here we see work was continuing at the Plant Vogtle nuclear construction project after one of the site workers was positive for the virus. So they haven't shut down work yet, but this is the same kind of language that we saw just a few short weeks ago with the meat packers. And now there's 15% off the board. So by that logic, it's entirely reasonable to suspect that a week or two from now, we start losing 10 to 15% of our generation capacity off the grid and have rolling brownouts. So limits on your water, limits on your electricity, we can still talk about that because this hasn't manifested yet. But if they start putting, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out. This is still speculative at this point, but it's happening quickly. And like I said, the government is putting out warnings. NERC is saying you need to be prepared, and they're actually specifically calling out cyber attacks and social engineering attacks. So those, Chinese hackers could call up nuclear power plants and say, yeah, I'm supposed to be working from home, but I forgot my password. Can you reset it for me and get access to the nuclear power plant and shut down the grid? But like I said, that's all speculative, whereas the food system, that ship has sailed. These shortages are baked in. They will be happening now. The rationing in the next couple weeks here, you will see it. And it's not a coincidence, folks. Bill Gates, Cargill, who's Big Ag, and even PETA all partnered up years ago and said, we are going to get rid of animal agriculture. That was Memphis Meats. And then Bill Gates went on to fund with multiple millions of dollars also Impossible Foods, whose CEO said, yes, we're coming out. We're ending animal agriculture. These are their stated goals, and we are now watching them execute on them. This is why they were giving millions of dollars to these lab-grown protein companies. Look, the world without slaughter sounds great, but the slaughter is going on now. And the slaughter includes not just the animals at these operations that these ranchers are having to kill off and not get to market, but it includes those of us who depend on these systems to eat. That's the real slaughter they're doing right now. But we're not allowed to talk about that. And he just continues there. Bill Gates, $75 million, Impossible Burger. Look for Impossible Burgers at Burger King coming back once they can't get their beef anymore. But we're not allowed to talk about it. Everything's fine. I'm not inciting panic. In fact, I owe you an apology. You should not listen to me at all. I've been wrong all these years. They have no desire to take over our food supply. You shouldn't be growing your own food. You should not be spreading this word about this. You should never share this video by any means. Are you out of your mind? You're not allowed to talk about it on social media. Ladies and gentlemen, when the censorship is announced like this, I think it adds credibility to the message. And I do ask for you to spread this message. And I do ask for you to go find farmers and ranchers in your local area that need your help now. That's basically all of them. And lend a hand however you can. And make sure that we are building new systems that can feed our communities just as rapidly as they are actively tearing them down right now. It's a full-scale war. Food is the weapon, and this is where we are now. Please find my work directly on iceagefarmer.com, as I do not expect these channels, or my Twitter, for instance, to stick around much longer. Apparently, I'm violating the use policy by telling you what's really happening. Thanks for watching, folks.
Damn. Definitely subscribe to that. And you see, this is just going on more and more to the point where I was talking about how people are going to get off the grid. It's not, I mean, sure, it's the attacks too, but like there's so much more to this than that. And when this stuff really, unless people really start to see what this is, man, we're not going to be able to do much about it. These tactics, and trust me, they're going to pull another tactic out of their ass to distract the masses, man. They're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. You better believe they're going to do it again. This video has been removed for violating YouTube's terms, so of course it is.
Hello, James Corbett here, CorbettReport.com, reporting to you from the socially close streets of Western Japan. In Walden, Henry David Thoreau famously observed that there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil to one striking at its root. And there can be no doubt that there are many thousands that are hacking away at the branches of the evil that we see spreading out before us in the name of this pandemic panic, diligently constructing the dissembling discourse of the disease doomsayers, and rightfully so. I count myself amongst them. However, if all we are doing is smacking down the lies that are being spread about this pandemic as soon as they arise, then we run the risk of missing that root of the evil altogether.
Exactly.
So allow me, if you will, to take one hefty swipe at that root with my battle axe of truth by clearly stating and rejecting the new governing principle for society that we are being asked to accept on the basis of this pandemic pandemonium. Now, this new governing principle for society, of course, is implicit. I mean, we're going to sign onto it by our silent consent, not our explicit consent, but nonetheless, it rests on a hypothetical chain of infection that can take place in the event of a spreading infectious agent. Now, keep in mind, this has nothing to do with a novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2. This is about a general principle. But the principle holds that if there is a spreading infectious agent of some sort that is hypothetically infecting people around, you might become infected by this agent. And you might end up passing it on to someone else, who might end up passing it on to someone else, etc., etc. And somewhere down that chain of infection, someone who is immunocompromised.
Sorry about that. You go back.
Nonetheless, it rests on announcements of the duly unelected health authorities to do whatever they deem necessary to prevent such a hypothetical chain of infection from taking place, up to and including quarantining people within the walls of their own homes and or entering those walls to forcibly remove people from their own homes.
And at the moment, in most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
We are being asked to accept this abrogation of our most precious freedoms, including our freedom to travel, our freedom of association and assembly, our freedom from arbitrary detention within the walls of our own home, our freedom of privacy in transaction and interaction, and other hard-fought freedoms that were purchased at the price of our forefathers' blood, on the basis of a novel coronavirus that is presenting a novel existential threat to humanity that has never before existed. But that, of course, is a lie, because every single flu season for your entire life, there have been just such hypothetical chains of infection that have taken place, and I have no doubt, let's put it on the table, I have no doubt that there is someone listening to my words right now who has been involved in some chain of infection that has ended up in some immunocompromised person dying. Never before has that person had to think of themselves as a murderer, let alone lock themselves within the confines of their own home to prevent such a murder from ever taking place again. But that is what we are being asked to accept right now. And I want this out on the table, because if we do not clearly articulate this principle that we are being asked to accept, then by our silence we will consent to it. We will tacitly, implicitly consent to what is taking place right now, and I want to clearly state it and clearly reject it. Now, there may be some people in the crowd who disagree with me. So, first of all, let me put something else out on the table and make it very clear that, of course, none of what I say is to in any way undermine the basic right that everyone has, everyone always has had, and everyone always will have to take whatever precautionary measures they feel is necessary in order to prevent such a chain of infection from taking place, including isolating yourself in your own home, wearing whatever protective gear you want, socially distancing yourself from anyone you come in contact with, or anything else that you feel is appropriate to prevent such a chain of infection. Of course, you have that right. But that negative right is now being flipped on its head into a positive obligation on everyone in society to stop all productive human activity, to lock everyone up in their homes, and to treat them as prisoners, tracking and surveilling everything that they do and everyone that they come in contact with on the basis of a hypothetical chain of infection that could take place. And I want that out on the table. If you agree with that principle and you think that is a good thing, then clearly state it. State it to my face. Oh wait, you can't, because you are a prisoner within the walls of your own home and you are not allowed into Japan, but you probably think that's a good thing. But at least say it to my digital face. Clearly state that you agree with the abridgment of our most basic freedoms on the basis of this hypothetical chain of infection, and clearly state where your line in the sand is. What do you think would be going too far for the government to do on the back of such a pandemic panic? Biometric ID, tracing and tracking every movement of every citizen at all times for the rest of their lives? Or the ability to march into people's homes to check for potential infections and forcibly vaccinate them if need be? Or any other number of measures that are now coming into view as a result of this panic. Where is your line in the sand? Clearly state it so that when that line is crossed, people will see that you were a hypocrite for cheering it on. Unless there is no line in the sand, and you think that governments are justified in doing anything that any presumed health authority says in the light of a pandemic situation. But at least state it openly and on the record. Don't hide behind vague, fluffy, woolly language. Tell us what you, specifically, not the agents of the state to whom you outsource your violence, but you would do in order to prevent people from living their lives in the...
Okay. I don't know how much... Let's see. Whoa, what's this about?
Guys, I use Virtual Shield VPN every single day on my phone and my laptop because anytime I'm online, I want to hide my identity, my activity, and my location. And you can try it for free for 30 days, plus get 30% off by using the link in the description. All right, I had to end the day on a positive note. This is from the Daily Mail. The great floutdoors. Britons head to the parks and beaches to soak up 73-degree heat despite lockdown, while councils are forced to shut cemeteries.
Hang on. I'm not finding what I was originally looking for. Let me go back to this. Keep going down the list and see what I can find. Okay. Nah, I don't think this is... I must have went to the wrong thing.
While somehow tens of millions of Americans have been swindled out of 100% of their liberties by being forced to shelter in place, the psychopaths who are orchestrating this pandemic are walking around, going from their houses to the studios with the cameramen, all the sound people, all the videographers, and somehow they're able to make these little public service announcements like this one.
So the order states, and it is legally binding, and is punishable by a fine or punishable by a jail sentence. Certainly don't want to crowd our jails right now with people who are just trying to get to work. I understand this, but the order reads: all individuals currently living within Dallas County, not working, living within Dallas County, are ordered to shelter at their place of residence. What that means is it doesn't matter whether your job is in Fort Worth or whether your job is in downtown Dallas or Plano. If you live here, you're under this order. Any other questions before we wrap up?
If you live here, you're under house arrest. This is happening in Texas. It happened in California, New York, Florida, my state of Oklahoma. People are being forced to shelter in place, imprisoned in their own house. Ask yourselves what the founding fathers would say if they saw us just quivering in the corner and millions of us being shoved around by a couple thousand people and their law enforcers. It's unconscionable. Are we really going to accept this as our new normal? Listen to Andrew Cuomo. If this doesn't make your blood boil, nothing will. If this doesn't resuscitate us and breathe the spirit of some kind of freedom and liberty and resistance in us, nothing will.
These provisions will be enforced. These are not helpful hints. This is not if you really want to be a great citizen. These are legal provisions. They will be enforced.
And what is a law? A law is nothing more and nothing less than the opinion of politicians like this guy, mafia members, backed by the threat of force. They're threatening you. If you come out of your house, if you open your business, you will be punished with a fine, or we're going to throw your ass into a cage. That's America today? That's really what we're going to accept as our destiny? This is really the land of the free, home of the brave? They've shut everything down and brought us to our knees with just an edict? In the name of keeping us safe from an invisible bug? And we just have to take their word for it that it's as deadly as they say it is? And if we go by their own numbers, it's not even close to being as deadly as the regular influenza virus, but they don't shut things down for that. Already this year, over 30,000 people have died from the influenza virus. How many from COVID-19? Couple hundred, 300 maybe? Let's give them 500. We don't shut down for the 30,000, but we do shut down for the 500. This is the new normal because a new pandemic is going to come around next year. And we're going to be shut down then too. We're going to allow these psychopaths, these narcissistic banker puppets to rule our lives. Is this what we've really become? Is this that light and that shining beacon on a hill for all the world to see?
There will be a civil fine and mandatory closure for any business that is not in compliance. Again.
But Andrew, I'm losing my business. If I stay closed for 2 more days, I got to close forever.
And that's the
Our lives and our livelihoods are on the line. And we can't pull our heads out of our asses to band together in solidarity, in unity for the sake of liberty and freedom. They put it all on the line in the American Revolution, every bit of it. It's not the majority who will prevail, but the irate and tireless minority who are keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. Where's that? Where's that in us?
Your actions can affect my health. That's where we are.
Well, your actions are affecting our health. That's where we are. Guys, share this video with everybody you know. It's utterly ridiculous what is happening. Very few people in Washington's District of Criminals and all these governors and all these little sycophants that are running around, thinking they have a higher claim over our lives and property than us to the point where they're making us close our businesses that we worked all our lives to build? No, I don't accept this as the new normal. I do not.
So there is a social compact that we have.
There is no social compact. And if there was, you know what it would look like? Nobody's got a right to make me do something I don't want to do if I'm not out there harming or threatening to harm somebody else. Nobody. It's called freedom. It's called liberty. It's called dangerous freedom. Because I don't want this peaceful, shuttered in a corner, shut in my house slavery. I don't want to wait for the government to give me the stimulus package, the quantitative easing, the social safety net, the Congress-approved check that's supposed to come to my door and make everything all better as they sink the American dollar and increase prices through hyperinflation with the help of their banker buddies over at the Federal Reserve.
Government makes sure society is safe for everyone. What you do can affect my health.
That's BS. Now, I just wanted you to listen to this very last thing. This pompous ass thinking he has a higher claim over your life and property than you. Thinking he can mandate and dictate and be a dictator. This is what's happening, guys. Tyrannical beings are trying to rule us. This is a dictatorship. They're dictating your actions. They're removing your freedoms.
This is personal advice. This is non-factual. So it's all gratuitous. You can take it, you can throw it in the pail. But we have to think this situation through. Don't be reactive at this point.
Yeah, we, the government, are pointing a government gun in your face, and we're telling you not to be reactive
To this situation. Yes, you are out of control in many ways.
Because you're taking control, and you're threatening me and everybody else, all New Yorkers, all of America, with violence if we don't comply.
You're out of control to this virus. You're out of work. Situations are changing.
No, you are not out of control to this virus. You're not even out of control to what the government is making you do. Let me show you a picture of what's actually happening. This right here is a perfect illustration of why people are complying. Because it's all in our heads. We think in our heads that the politicians and their enforcers are more powerful than we are. But just like this horse, this 1,200, 1,500 pound powerful beast thinks he has to stay put because he's tied to a 50-cent, half a pound Walmart lawn chair, a plastic lawn chair. He could easily go anywhere he wants to, but he doesn't because there's a construct in his mind that keeps his entire body from moving. That is what's happening to America. And this is why I need you to get this message out. We need to wake up and realize the power we have as individuals, and we need to unite against this tyranny. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. We cannot stand for this. This cannot be. We cannot live on our knees.
All right, I'm gonna see what else I can find, but I want to try to get as much as I can before this video taps out because I don't know how much film time I got. Okay. Good. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Oh wait, no, that's Brian too.
The new details pouring in about the mental history of the man who opened fire yesterday, killing so many workers at the Washington Navy Yard. We are studying these pictures tonight of Aaron Alexis, showing what his friends say they saw. Someone smiling, unthreatening. But we now know there is evidence he was hearing voices, had even reached out for help, a warning sign that may have been missed. And we begin our team coverage with ABC's senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas.
Law enforcement sources tell ABC News Aaron Alexis was a ticking time bomb in recent days descending toward madness. On August 7th at 6 a.m., Alexis called the Newport police in Rhode Island and began a bizarre tale, documented in a police report obtained by ABC News. He claimed after an argument at a Virginia airport, an unidentified person had sent 3 people to follow him and to keep him awake by talking to him and sending vibrations to his body through a microwave machine. He switched hotels 3 times that night, trying to escape the voices. Newport authorities contacted Naval Station Police, but it is unclear if the military took any action. Friends never thought he was dangerous.
Right now, I'm really crushed inside because it just wasn't the errand that I knew that would do this.
Despite all this, Alexis went to work for a government computer contractor at the Washington Navy Yard, using a secret security clearance he had received after joining the Navy.
This morning,